we're not confirmed yet. But rather than waiting and more ground truthing and more time going by, we want to announce these addresses as best as we have been able to identify by law enforcement. 155 Rolling Pines, 4 additional structures on Rolling Pines, 455 Gosher Trace, 380B Old Antioch Road, 493 Cottletown, which appears to be a shed, structures across from the Heart of the Pines Fire Station, 210 Old Antioch Road, 215 Old Antioch Road, 126 Turkey Trot, 2 outbuildings. 108 Agate, an unknown structure across from 142 Tall Pines. 1430 Park Road 1C, 1492 Park Road 1C, 190 Spring Hollow, 156 Turkey Trot, 614 Cottletown Road, 197 Spring Hollow, 112 Lonesome Dove, 242 Spring Hollow, 352 Old Antioch Road, 172 Broken Tree, 194 Broken Tree. These are all on Long Trail. 167, 220, 228, 245, 255, we're not certain that's the correct address. That was a guesstimate by its location. 260, 267, 271, 269, 228/224 at the curve in the road on Long Trail. 2 additional structures in the area of 172 Broken Tree.
Thank you, Commissioner Beckett. That's tough, folks. And I appreciate her being willing to do that. Now, if you lost your home, our hearts go out to you. We're very sorry for that. And we will continue to fight this fire with everything we've got and get it out as quickly as possible so that there's not more loss. But the nature of firefighting is we have very little control about what happens when the wind blows and the humidity gets low. So I wanted to give you some time tonight to hear from people who understand fire operations and who do this for a living. Our own Mike Fisher, who is Emergency Management Coordinator for Bastrop County, and Rich Gray, who works for Texas Forest Service and who does this sort of thing all the time. If you two gentlemen would come and talk a little bit about how this fire has behaved, what kinds of things you've seen, what you expected, what you didn't expect, and what the folks might expect as we go forward for the next few days. Mike?
Thank you.
Get real close.
Can you hear me in the back? I'm going to have to make a quick little adjustment here. Sorry. Come on over it. As the judge said, my name's Mike Fisher. I'm an emergency management coordinator for the county. With me is Rich Gray, Texas Forest Service. Rich Gray's in charge of the operations that have been going on out there. My job as incident commander. We're trying to oversee this entire event. We have a privilege of working with some of the best firefighters there are in this nation. We started with the firefighters from right here in Smithville Tuesday. Great folks, did a great job. We've moved up, we've got more. We've got people from Dallas and Houston and others on the way. Skilled people. They're doing everything they can. Doing all the things that are traditionally the things we'd do in a wildfire. Some of them have not worked. Some of them have. Our weather, as you heard, is a little more forgiving today, and I'm a little more pleased with what we've been able to accomplish today, but I'm not pleased overall. I heard somebody say, well, this fire's not as bad as the 2011 fire. Well, I don't want to hear anybody say that. For me, it's bad, and for you, it's bad, and it's just as bad as any fire you're ever going to be on, or I will ever be on. I want to make that very clear. Am I satisfied with everything we've done? I don't think I ever will be in my career, but I've done everything I can do, and I'm going to keep doing that. I'm going to let Rich talk a little bit about how this fire has behaved, because he's been the guy that was out there. He doesn't know I'm going to tell this story, but he was on a road last night saving some homes, and he got himself trapped in another engine. And while they were trapped, they saved the homes that they were there. Fortunately, because they're skilled, they're trained, and well-equipped, they were able to escape, but only after they saved somebody's home, one or more, that's in this room tonight. This is the kind of guy that you've got out there running that fire crew. Rich, let's tell them how that fire works.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate y'all attending tonight. Making some really good progress today. As Mike had said, the weather is moderated somewhat. Forecast was for fairly problematic weather for today, and it did not materialize the problem weather, but we addressed the fire with the additional resources that we would need for a weather event that was forecasted for today. So kind of take you from the very beginning of the fire, when it started. The county was very prepared through the emergency management coordinator and also the county fire departments, because we were forecasted for very low RHs and winds that day. So immediately on the ignition of the fire, we mobilized local resources as well as Texas A&M Forest Service. We have an office here in Bastrop County, and we mobilized very quickly with those resources. The fire pushed from the north towards the south. We had that northerly component. Burned into the Science Center off of Park Road 1C, and we were successful in saving all the structures in there. Worked through the night. Fire behavior didn't really moderate. Usually you see fire behavior moderating in the evening. Did not moderate for two reasons. One, we have a very heavy fuel load from the heavy drought kill that we had from the drought of 2011 and other years, and a lot of undergrowth underneath some of that standing timber out there. So that generated very high fire intensities, where we've seen fire into the canopy of those trees. That canopy would send embers out. We call that spotting. Some of that spotting was up to 1/8 of a mile away, so really large gaps between where we're working and where those embers would fall out. Yesterday we had the wind shift back out of the south. So the fire footprint almost looks like an L, a short tail and then a very long tail heading towards the northwest. Conditions yesterday with that large fire perimeter heading north and a lot of hot embers and conditions allowed for a very wide framing front because of the wind shift, and that's really what pushed yesterday, put up the large column and caused some of those flaming front to push into structures. Our tactics yesterday, because of that extreme fire behavior, were point protection. We focused a lot of engine apparatus and our aviation assets in saving homes. Limited circling of fire or perimeter control more towards the tail end of the fire just because of the intensities, and at all times homes and lives were our priority. Today, same tactics. As we speak, we have heavy air tankers that are dropping retardant. That slows the fire, does not put the fire out, and then we follow up in that retardant footprint with crews on the ground, men and women on the ground with dozers and engines and putting line in. I anticipate that we'll stay successful through dark 30 tonight. The column coming in is much more reduced than it was yesterday at this time. We see favorable conditions tonight in the weather, higher humidities and low wind speeds, and we should make some good progress with getting containment lines around the fire tonight and into tomorrow. So we'll be here for a while with the heat that's at close to the line, as well as the time it's going to take to get around the line. Mike talked about the homes that we saved. Those homes we saved, there's a concept that we call defensible space by moving some of that brush back away from your house, things like that. We didn't have to leave because the first house that was there had good defensible space. It was a safety zone for our firefighters, so not only did it save the house, it was an area that we could work, and then we were be able to go on to save some additional homes. So what you do also helps us when we get into these problematic fire conditions. So that's pretty well what we're looking at strategy-wise, and we'll continue to chunk away on those lines and hopefully do not see any more structure loss. That's our goal. So thank you.
Let me close this segment up with a couple of other remarks. I'm going to read from my report card. Right now, this is as of noon or a little after noon. 4,383 acres have been burned. I am confident that we're about 25% containment. And that's important to you, and I want you to listen very closely. You're going to hear in a little while that some areas have suitably been judged for reentry. And if I didn't think so, we wouldn't have them on the list that you're going to hear, because I'm not going to get any of you people hurt. I don't want to do that. But I'm confident enough that where we can get people back to their homes safely, and I know you want to do that. I understand that. But I want you to know there is some risk. There's always some risk. You heard this man say this is one of the most non-traditional, I think, fires that we've had. I want you to keep that in mind. I want you to keep those firefighters in mind. They're going to be out there all night. They'll be there all day tomorrow, and they'll be there until it's 100% contained. But I want you to be alert. I want you to watch out for yourselves and your neighbors. I want you to keep a plan in mind. If we have to pull you out of there again, I'll apologize for that later. But keep that in mind. That's a possibility. Okay? Very important that you understand that. If you're concerned, you're afraid, you see something unusual, call 911. Let us know. Find a firefighter. Tell him. But this thing is not over. And we're not going to leave until it is. But we're going to have your help. Rich has mentioned one way, and I've mentioned another.
Thank you, Rich and Mike, both very professional at what they do, and we're very blessed to have those resources available to us here in Bastrop County. At this time, I want to call Sheriff Terry Pickering to come, and also Paul Schultz. These two gentlemen have been in charge of security and making sure that the firefighters were protected and that the public was protected as well. And following them, I'll ask Mr. Mark Rose with Blue Bonnet Electric Company to come and tell us about utility restorations. Terry?
Thank you, Judge. Good evening, folks. Actually, Mike and Rich kind of stole some of my information I was going to share with you, but from a law enforcement perspective, our role is to really provide security. First of all, help assist with the evacuations and give those evacuation notices, assist with security for the firefighters. We want to make sure that they're safe. Once y'all are out of the area, then we want to protect your property as much as we possibly can. So that's where we're at in the process of all this. To date, I think we've evacuated about 400 homes in the area. I am happy to report that hopefully by 8 o'clock this evening, I understand that Blue Bonnet Electric is going to restore some power to some of the homes, and so we're shooting for 8 o'clock this evening. Anyone who lives in the between 125 and 441 Keller Road will be able to return home. And those living in the addresses of 132 to 333 Powell Road will be able to return home. And Blue Bonnet has assured us that they will have power restored to those residences. Now keep in mind, we're not going to pull our roadblocks and just, open it up to everyone. So I'm going to ask, we will have officers still manning roadblocks. If you live in those, at any of those locations, please have your driver's license or some proof of residency in order to get through the roadblock. And we will maintain those roadblocks and security through the night to make sure that y'all get home and secure your property and you have an opportunity to protect it and keep things safe. So we'll continue to be out there. We will continue to work with the Forest Service and our utilities, whether it's Blue Bonnet Electric or Aqua Water, and as we're able to let people into areas where they feel it's safe, then we're going to do that as promptly as possible. I do want to thank Captain Schultz with the Texas Highway Patrol. He is our disaster district chair for the state, and he's the one who's actually responsible for helping order up state resources and improving those requisitions. And with the assistance of the Department of Public Safety and Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission, Parks and Wildlife, LCRA, just a whole host of law enforcement officers out there. I think we've got about 50 officers in the area right now. So we're doing everything we can to make sure your property's safe and secure until we can get you back home. And Paul, did you want to say anything?
We're here to help you. We're here to serve you during this time and to offer whatever resources we have available to the judge, to Mike Fisher, and to the sheriff. And if there is anything our people can do for you out there, please let us know, because that's what we're here for, and we want to see this resolved as quickly as you do as well. So we appreciate your support as we go about this, making this as painful or painless as we can for everybody involved.
I'm Mark Rose, work for Blue Bonnet. For most of our crews, this is now the third fire that we've worked in this area. And I think, as all of us know, as some of us said earlier today, this fire may not be as significant of an event as the 2011 fire, but emotionally it has affected everyone very deeply, including our crews that are out in the field. I want to publicly thank the city manager of Smithville. He allowed us to stage in Riverbend Park this morning, which means that we've already had crews assessing almost all of the damage. Every area that we could get into and assess, we've done that. As we were listening to Commissioner Beckett's, the list that she was reading, then obviously you can tell from that list that where the most houses were damaged or lost, that's where we have the most damage. Before we're releasing an area, we've driven it and we've walked it and we've looked at every pole. So we've worked Keller Road from the highway till the end of it. We've worked Powell from the highway to the end of it. We've given you the range of addresses. If you're the last house on Keller or the last house on Powell, you're at the edge of the active fire zone, and you should be on, but if you're not, then there's a good chance that you shouldn't be there. I'm not trying to oversimplify it, but we've opened up everything that we can do. We will have two crews, crews staged at Keller Road tonight, throughout the night, and if for any reason fire conditions change, then we will de-energize those lines, and we won't be able to give anyone any notice. But the only reason we'll be de-energizing the line will be that something has changed in a fire condition. And unfortunately, even if it happens at the far end of Keller or Powell, the whole line has to go down. So just as the sheriff said, be vigilant and know that if we are de-energized, that a condition is changed. We have 374 residences that we know that we have disconnected. We've designed 4 zones. The first zone are the ones that we were going to open tonight, and that will be Keller and Powell. Zone 2 is the Felix Drive, Majestic Forest area. Zone 3 is Hudson, Long Trail, Agate, Rolling Pines, East Broken Tree, Tall Pines, and Old Antioch. That's the third zone. And then the fourth zone is Lonesome Dove, Abbey, Cottletown Road, and Gosher Trace. That's because Zone 4 is going to be the last to be restored, because Zone 4 is Zone 4 is in the fire zone right now. So we couldn't restore it if we wanted to. We will post this map to our webpage tonight, and either later on tonight or by first thing in the morning, we will have some estimated times. It's impossible to give a time frame for the rest of the zones right now, because we just don't feel quite confident in the reports on the conditions of the fire, because from zones 2, 3, and zones 2, 3, and 4, we're going to have to rebuild some lines. We have some poles on the ground, we have some physical damage, and then lastly and most importantly, it's not the poles and the wires. We literally have to check the entire right-of-way and make sure that we take down any tree that looks like it could fall into the power line. So hopefully, fire cooperating, we can get all of this wrapped up by the first part of next week. That's what we're shooting for. If not sooner, Please trust us when we say that our guys are out there working, and as soon as we can get the power restored, we will do that. Thanks.
Thank you, Mark. There may be some questions about any of these things, and we'll have time for questions in a few minutes. But before we get there, I just want to say a word about temporary sheltering for those of you who are not able to go home. We're very grateful, as Mark said, to the City of Smithville for opening up this recreation center and making it available to those who needed it. Mr. Tamble tells me that 158 citizens have registered for shelter here. Many of them were given vouchers to go to motels either here or over in Bastrop. 15 actually slept in cots here last night. I'm thankful for this resource, and we're working on some plans to add some resources like this in other parts of the county, and this is exactly the reason why we need to do that. We also are grateful to have the support of the long-term recovery team. Ms. Sheila Lowe is the new executive director of that organization, and they are at your ready. If your property has been lost, please register with them, because they will be coordinating folks to come in and clean up the fire debris, and also provide some guidance for other services. I'm very thankful to see a fine group of ministers from this community here tonight. Gentlemen and lady, thank you for your support, and prayers are needed, and soft hands and soft hearts are needed for our citizens, particularly those who have lost their homes, and for many others who can't go back, and we don't know when they can go back. Thank you for being here. We also have available the services and counselors of Bluebonnet Trails Mental Health Association. And if you feel like you need some professional counseling in that regard, please let me or someone know, and we'll get those resources available to you. At this time, I think it would be appropriate for us to open it up to the audience for questions. And we will have some questions and answers. And at the end of the time, we're going to, we have a couple of graphics on the wall now. We also have a couple of other graphics that show where the structures are that were announced by Ms. Beckett earlier, where they are located physically on a map. And so we'll get those up on the wall as well, and you can take a look at that. And do we have the list of the properties that were read off? Where is our Sissy? Okay, they'll be up here next to the map. So if you'd like to take a copy of that list, we hope to have one for each of you. If I counted right, there were 34 what we believe to be home structures. That maybe they aren't homes, but they're structures that look like homes or look like where a home should be. 34 of those, and then other countless outbuildings, garages, tool sheds, and carports, and that sort of thing. 34, that's a lot. That's about 10% of all those meters that Mr. Rose says have been turned off. So it's a big impact on our community, and our hearts are heavy for those of you who have lost your homes. There may be other homes lost. We do not have any control over a fire. And we learned from the 2011 fire that a house might survive the first 2 or 3 nights and be lost on the 3rd night, because we cannot control the wind, and there are uncountable hot spots in the fire footprint, stumps that are still burning down into the ground, trees that are still on fire, power poles that are still on fire. I saw them with my own eyes today. So this fire event is not over, not anywhere near over. And we could have considerable more loss. If you're a praying person, I would ask you to pray for the same kind of conditions going forward as we've had today. High humidity and low wind speeds. Those are our friends when it comes to fighting fire. Now, the weather forecasters tell us that we're going to be looking at a front moving through this part of Texas tomorrow. But even then, I believe in the power of prayer, and I hope you do too. Now, are there any questions that we could address? And I'll try to sort them out to the person who should be addressing them. Anything that we didn't cover or were unclear about? We don't want to hold you any longer than we need to. Yes, sir, on the back row.
When will Governor Abbott be back?
When,
Will FEMA be involved?
okay, the question was, when will Governor Abbott be back, and will FEMA be involved? I don't expect Governor Abbott to come back. He trusts me as the local officer to handle the disasters, to fulfill the mission that I've been given as county judge. I'm very grateful he came. FEMA will be involved immediately. Part of his reason for being here today was to declare a disaster for this fire event. By that declaration, we automatically qualify for Federal Fire Management Grant, FMAG grant. And so we're tracking our expenses as we go forward, and we will be getting assistance from FEMA in paying for the cost of recovering from this fire. Thank you for your question. Was there a question up here? Yes, ma'am.
Are there any federal firefighting resources coming into the county tonight or tomorrow?
Yeah, the question has to do with federal firefighting resources coming into the county today, or tonight, or tomorrow. Let me ask Rich, if you would. Did we lose Rich? Can you recall what we can expect as far as federal assistance with some of the blue team that's coming in? Okay. We get real close.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we're bringing in a Type 1 incident management team, very similar to what we did during the Bastrop complex. Those folks have been ordered this morning based on the fire behavior yesterday and a potential. So that team comes with 24 basically managers to manage the whole incident. We also have 8 dozers that are on order that are coming from Florida, and I believe 4 dozers that are coming with that team from Georgia. So we have additional assets that are coming in with that team. In addition to that, we have 3 more strike teams of engines that, when I say local, Texas Interstate Fire Mutual Aid System, TIFMAS, that are coming in from various cities across the state of Texas. So we're getting in plenty of additional resources. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. By Rich's answer, you can see that we're not just hoping and praying for the best, but we're preparing for the worst. If conditions change and this fire breaks out of its fire lines and begins moving across the forest again, we're going to be ready with all these resources. And so we have to prepare for the worst, and that's the prudent approach. Are there any other questions? Yes, sir. The question had to do with O'Grady Road is one of the roads that's included in the fire footprint.
That should be next up. As in hopefully tomorrow, it's in that second zone, and we're working that tomorrow. And we should check Facebook, check our webpage. We'll have that, but also I'll get your name before you leave, and we'll try to give you a holler personally. But that's in that zone 2, and that should be hopefully tomorrow.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm actually opposite of Brady Road, but I took out what I could take out with the 5 minutes that they gave me this morning, but I was watching the fire. At this point in time, I'd like just a brief visit to my house to get some more stuff. I know it's still there. I know there's no active fire in the area. How can I do that?
The question had to do, could you as a homeowner have a brief visit to your house to retrieve some more things, even though it's not an area that's been opened up? I'm going to let the sheriff address that. That really is a security issue, not just for you, but for...
Today, and they said, oh, absolutely not.
Well,
I've got 3 freezers. I'd at least like to empty them so I don't lose them.
I understand. I'm going to let the sheriff give you the bad news.
Thanks, Judge. Yeah, unfortunately, we really can't afford to do that. I mean, I feel for you, and I'd really like to help you out, but the fact of the matter is number one, we got to be concerned about everyone's safety, not only your safety in taking you back there, but the officers that are going to have to escort you back there, the firefighters, whatever the case may be. The other thing is, I hate to say this, but if I do it for you, then I have to do it for everybody. I just honestly don't have the resources to do all that. The only thing I'll tell you, and I'll promise you, I mean, just like we mentioned today, we're working diligently. I mean, the firefighters are doing everything they can to get everything under control. As soon as areas are becoming safe, we're going to get you back in there just as quick as we possibly can. But until we get clearance from the firefighters and from the utility companies and stuff, I'm sorry, we're just not going to be able to escort people in.
How do you inform me besides a meeting like this? I looked at websites, I went on Facebook, I went over...
We're constantly, if you'll check...
bugging your officers because I drive
Right. If you'll check the sheriff's office Facebook page, the Office of Emergency Management's Facebook page, our Twitter, for either one of those, we're posting information there. We're trying to get the information out to the media as quickly as possible, and honestly, I think our news stations have been doing an excellent job, and having a little scrolling information at the bottom of the screen with updated information and stuff. So, I mean, short of that, I mean, that's the purpose of this. We understand people don't always have, especially when you've been evacuated, you don't have access to internet, and you don't have smartphones and things like that. So that was the whole purpose of this meeting today. It was to invite everyone here to hear from us personally. I'll leave that up to the judge.
Yeah.
I get to throw him under the bus.
Right. Thank you, Sheriff. We will have another public meeting like this when there is meaningful information to share with the public. But meantime, please do go to our social media sites and the county's website, and we will try to keep current information on that. And of course, I'm sorry, there's a question in the back. Yes, sir, let's take that question, and then I want to follow up on the other question about FEMA. Yes, sir. Yes. Well, then you'll want to shake his hand personally. He's thanking Rich for being there to save his house. You know, thank you for mentioning that. As I said when the governor was here this morning, that the people standing around behind the microphone and the news media out front, we're not the heroes. The heroes in this event are the men and women who put on that fire garb and go out there on the front line and put their lives at risk to defend your life, your property, and our beautiful Bastrop County. They are the heroes in this event. Let's all keep that in mind as we go forward. And thank God for them. And they deserve every round of applause they can get. Back to the question about FEMA. I may have misunderstood your question. Mr. Fisher has been around the block a time or two, as you might guess. And he thinks that that question might have had something to do with personal assistance, individual assistance. Yes, sir. And so he's going to come and address that. And that was a very good catch, Mike. Come and talk to us about that, if we really get close here.
FEMA has assistance known in two ways: individual assistance and public assistance. We're going to talk about individual assistance. That's when FEMA comes to town, sets up a center in a schoolroom or something somewhere, and people apply, get a FEMA number, and receive some assistance. And it's assistance I want to have for this fire very, very badly. But here's what's got to happen. We've got to meet a threshold. I don't know how many dollar loss we have right now. That's my job to know that. I know the list of structures that Commissioner Beckett just laid out for you. I've got to get an estimate, at least, of the cost of that, and I've got to see and show FEMA that those numbers meet our local threshold. I'm not going to speculate a guess right now that we will or will not. I can assure you that I'm going to count everything out there that's worth $1 to get that on there. But until that threshold is met, FEMA is not allowed by federal law to offer up individual assistance. Again, part of my job as the incident commander of this and your emergency management coordinator is to make that happen. And I can tell you, if it can be made to happen, I'm going to do that. I want to mention one other thing about reentry. And I know that we read some neighborhoods and I see some smiling faces because your address was there. I get that. But I also told you that to do that, I'm taking some risk, and you are too. Those of you and sir, with the deep freeze, I get that. I understand that. But there's only a certain amount of risk you and I want to take. And there's a certain amount of risk that I am obliged to have these firefighters take. I commanded a fire 4 years ago. We lost 2 lives because a person's going back in too soon without permission. And I don't want to do that again. I don't think you do either. So if you'd be patient, we're going to do everything we can to accommodate your needs, but I want to do it safely.
Thank you, Mike. Let's take another question or two, and then I do want to have time for you all to look at the maps. I'd like for Commissioner Beckett to go and stand back there by the side of the map that has the list on it, and we'll be available individually for continuing conversation. Are there a couple of questions that would be of use, of interest to everyone? Go ahead, you, and then you, and then.
My next door neighbor was informed by law enforcement that his house was destroyed house is not on that map, and my house is not on that map. The neighbor on the other side and the neighbor behind me are on that map.
Okay.
So is there someone who can confirm for me for sure whether my house is gone?
The question has to do with a house that is not on the list, but he was told by a law enforcement officer that his house was gone. This list is one that we made very, very extra effort to double check, in fact, triple check, to make sure that we didn't give you some false information about a lost structure. And I'm not saying that the law enforcement officer who told you about your house was wrong. I'm just saying, just because it's not on this list doesn't mean it's still there. It just means we couldn't confirm at least twice that it's gone. And as I said before, folks, this event's not over. There will be, I'm just going to predict, there will be other structures burned in this fire. It may happen tonight. We don't know when it'll happen. So don't be too confident, but we only gave you what we know 100% confident can be confirmed. Yes, ma'am.
What if you live on a segment of a road that has not been declared closed yet? It's been closed since yesterday. How do you find out information whether it will reopen or not open, or is it?
Okay. The question has to do, what if you live on a segment of a road that that's maybe part of the road is closed, but part of the road is not closed? Let me again have the sheriff come and talk to you about the security issues, because this is very important. Everybody wants to know, but we have to be consistent in these things, and it may be a situation where maybe he could check, make sure what part of the road you live on.
Yeah, I'm not sure I clearly understand your question, but can you get with me afterwards, and I'll be happy to discuss it with you. So, okay.
Yes, Robert. You all know Robert Tamel. He's our city manager here. Robert has an announcement about some vouchers.
Yes, good evening. For those of you who need vouchers for hotels, Combined Community Action will be in the back, and you can meet with them after the meeting. Okay? Raise your hand. Okay. She's right back there. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert, in the green shirt there. All right. I will take one more question, and then we will call this over, and the news media is going to want to talk to some of these people. Yes, ma'am. Well, other than what you heard here tonight, that will be posted on the sheriff's social media site. It'll be posted on Office of Emergency Management media's social media site, and it will also be posted on the county's website. So you will be able to find that information. Folks, thank y'all for being here. Sorry to be bearer of bad news, but you've been very respectful. All that I expected out of the folks in Smithville, actually. God bless you, and we'll keep fighting for you, and you keep praying for us. Thank you.